you very much, Victor. First of all, thank you, Marik, for the invitation, Gerson. And I would share with you some of my reactions to what we heard this morning. I had prepared a presentation, but I had drastically changed it in light of what we have heard, which is extremely interesting. I had barely heard about blockchain myself. Obviously, I'm following up on discussions of bitcoins and other sorts of coins. And it's interesting to analyze if there's some sort of connection or not with dispute resolution, and to what extent. First of all, arbitration itself, and we have here the Pope of arbitration, Martin Hunter is here, the father of us all. Arbitration itself is quite innovative if we compare it to the judicial system. It was a search for the private operators to free themselves from the courts. It's a search for freedom, and it's the exercise of freedom itself. Perhaps what is behind this blockchain movement has to do with it. But arbitration itself would never work in a large number of cases if in a certain point of the whole idea, the whole philosophy of arbitration, we wouldn't have the strength of a sovereign state to say, I agree what you have done. Obviously, and this will work for every sort of technology and dispute, if the parties agree by themselves with the results, you don't need to have that enforcement in a court of law. And this has happened hundreds and thousands of times in the preceding years. If we ask Brian, we ourselves, we elect you to solve our case right now without motivation, without the need of written briefs, and we agree to fulfill the decision. If Brian says something and we abide for it voluntarily, it's okay. We can be totally free from whatever government and we need, and whatever regulation perhaps we need. We discussed this morning about regulation. First, a second thought. When internet arose in Brazil and the world in the 90s, when we were discussing it from the legal standpoint of view, it was revolutionary. But was it revolutionary for law, for substantive law? After various years reflecting on it and discussing in depth, my conclusion is no. We apply perhaps the same Roman law that was created more than 2,000 years ago. Internet changed a lot in procedure, in speed, in reduction of costs, in quality of the evidence to be produced, because you have the evidence there, you know, the emails. It's not someone, a witness trying to testify, trying to rebuild what has happened. So it helped the procedure itself, but not the law, the disputes themselves. I myself would like also to add that I still have some difficulties to understand the limits of blockchain and use of technology as it's in its best way possible. What is the difference? Is it blockchain and is it Alexander? Congratulations for an excellent idea. I wonder myself, is blockchain the fact that you don't have a centralized control, centralized entity, but you have several ledgers. Do we need several ledgers for a dispute resolution? As Valerio mentioned, we have the issue of confidentiality. Do we need, is that what defines blockchain or not? Is one of the aspects, certainly. Or what you are presenting to us is something that will be extremely useful for the evolution of the procedure itself, but not as it's not revolutionary to the mindset of the arbitrators and the way that lawyers will present their cases. Obviously, I have all those reflections in my mind right now. It's extremely interesting to debate this. So, in a nutshell, I would say that first of all, and before that, you also, all of you mentioned the issue that blockchain means change of power. You decentralize power. This is one of the biggest, I think, concerns for the legitimacy of arbitration and international arbitration over the years. Arbitration was a European, North American issue that has been criticized over the years for the participation of Asia, Latin America, and Africa. We are getting there. But whenever we discuss decentralization of power, is it possible to say that no one will have some power? Or who is behind the power? Whose ideology is behind some sort of power if various peoples are involved? When I was watching your presentation, very interestingly, I was thinking to myself, even the way Alexander is formatting his Samba software, he is exerting some power. And obviously the ones that are formatting the blockchains, in a way, they are creating a path. Perhaps it's not decentralization of power, but a shift, obviously, and for power to be more democratic. So in a nutshell, what I think we are in a very early stage of this to say, as the other said, if this will succeed, especially in dispute resolution methods. I asked Marcia, what we have in our judicial courts, everything. We don't have paperwork anymore. Everything is the internet. Is it a blockchain? She said no. Is it that the ultimate goal for dispute resolutions? I don't know. At this stage today, I would think that this is the farthest that we can go, even in arbitration, reducing costs and whatsoever. From the procedure aspect, it may help, technology will help always, and especially to reduce costs. But again, for the decision itself, it's a human act. And all human acts, you need to take in consideration the human factor of the presentation of the cases, evidence that will not be part of the blockchain, as I imagine, facts that happened in the past. So this, I believe, will remain the same. Thank you.